IVM.
Hi,
You're
listening to IVM
Daily.
Hi and welcome to another episode of IVM Daily. My name is Abbas and IVM Daily is a show where we talk about stuff that's going on in the news, that's going on in our minds. Today I've decided to talk about something that I think we've all grown up on, that's Harry Potter. And a new Fantastic Beasts film is coming out in November, which is a spin-off from the Potter universe, and it's given rise to a bit of controversy. Certain casting choices and certain narrative choices have given rise to some outrage online, and I have decided to talk about that today. And with me to talk about this in the studio today, we have Krupa Gohil. Hi, Krupa.
Hi.
Hi. Before we get into this, I'll quickly introduce you. Krupa is a 23-year-old writer, playwright, and a young adult fiction fanatic. She's written a really cool article on BuzzFeed about Harry Potter. It's titled, "What the Hell is a Panju? And Other Question I, a Brown Potterhead, Have for JK Rowling," which was written when The Cursed Child came out,
Yes.
which was the 8th story in the Potter canon.
Yeah.
So before we go into this, I'll just give a little brief about what the controversy is that's going on currently. So in the Potter books, in the stories, there was a character called Nagini, which is a snake, a pet snake that Voldemort had. And the snake was killed at the end of the story. And spoilers, obviously, but if you're listening to this, you should have read the Potter books and seen the movies. And in the upcoming Fantastic Beasts film, Nagini's origin story will be revealed to us. And Krupa, if you can just share some light of what exactly the controversy is, very briefly.
So, first of all, you don't really expect Nagini to be like an actual person.
Right.
She was always a snake,
Right.
a very close friend / companion of Voldemort.
Voldemort, yeah.
You can't really expect a friendship from Voldemort.
Yeah.
Also, like soulmate, I guess.
Kind of.
I mean, literally.
It was, yeah, because a part of his soul was in the snake.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, the character is played by an actress from the Korean origin.
Right.
And when someone asked Rowling about this actress and why they have cast someone from the Korean origin,
Right.
she conveniently backs off and says, "Oh, this is from the Indonesian culture,
Right.
and like lots of myths surrounding that.
Right.
Have a good day."
Right. So the actress's name is Claudia Kim, who's
Yes.
been cast in the second Fantastic Beasts film, and she is an Asian origin actress. And like you said, when Rowling was asked about it, she said that the word Nagini or Nagin comes from Nagi comes from Indonesian
Or
mythology.
Naga. I'm sorry.
Naga, I think the word was
yes,
Naga.
Yes.
Rowling said the Naga creature comes from Indonesian mythology. And there's been backlash over that as well, because a lot of Indians are now like, no, this is a Sanskrit word, it comes from Indian mythology.
Also, if you're going to cast someone for a character that came out from an Indonesian culture,
Right.
why would you cast a Korean actress?
That's true. This kind of ties into the article you wrote about BuzzFeed, where you also mentioned that Cho Chang, who was in the original Potter stories, was supposed to be Chinese.
Yes.
But when you actually researched, something else came up.
No, the name is Korean. Like both the names are of Korean origin.
Right.
So.
But in the stories, she was depicted as Chinese.
As Chinese, yes.
Right. So obviously a lot of sort of inconsistencies are seen with how JK Rowling, who's easily the best-selling author of our times, or probably ever.
Yes.
So what do you think in general when you see when something like the Harry Potter series, which we have grown up on? I mean,
Yes.
I'm slightly older than you. I grew up on it. You grew up on it.
Yes.
And hopefully a lot of more children in coming generations will come up on it as well.
Yes.
When characters from a saga like that are taken and their origins are revamped, or she keeps dropping these additional hints about what happened, about their lives in the past or the future, what do you feel about that? Do you feel it's cool, or do you think it's stepping over the line a little bit?
So back in 2007, I think, she
Right.
revealed that Dumbledore was gay.
Right.
Which was received well by some people, not so well by a lot of people.
Right.
But here's the thing, right? Dumbledore's your professor. You don't...
Right.
and the story is from Harry's perspective. So, like, even if Dumbledore's, like, love story wasn't, like, revealed...
Right.
I mean, it's fine. He's a person in the universe. That's okay. Eventually, I think she got comfortable with the idea of revealing secrets.
Right.
And, like, backstories of characters she wrote.
And you think that's done to earn brownie points?
Recently, yes.
Okay.
Because I remember back when Cursed Child was... the cast of the ensemble of Cursed Child was introduced.
Right.
There was a woman playing Hermione.
Right.
Which a lot of people liked. A lot of people were like, you're moving away from canon, which is fine, right? But she says that I never revealed the ethnicity of Hermione throughout the series.
Right.
So she responds saying, canon, brown eyes, frizzy hair, and very clever. White skin was never specified. Rowling loves Black Hermione.
Right.
We love Black Hermione, but...
Right.
You're lying.
Yeah.
Because throughout the series, you mention how, like, for example, in the third book, A Prisoner of Azkaban, she says she has tanned after a vacation to France.
Right.
There's also a scene in which she describes her as being a white face that was sticking out from behind a tree.
Right.
So, I mean...
So there are instances where it's pretty apparent that Hermione was probably or definitely white.
Yes.
But if you recast her for so in a sense what you're saying is that Rowling should have been like, you know what, I wrote her as a white character, but now that she's black, I don't really have a problem with it. That's fine.
Yeah.
But to say that I never really kind of intended her to be white, so maybe she was black. Even I had a lot of problems with that. I had a problem with the Cursed Child in general because I thought it did a lot of things like that whole plot about Voldemort having a child. Whereas I think it was very much implied throughout the books that Voldemort does not want to procreate. He just wants to live forever and be the supreme being and, you know, whatever, rule the world or whatever. And yet to think that, oh no, him and Bellatrix had an illicit affair or had a child was pretty kind of uncomfortable. All right, at this point, we'll take a small break. When we come back after the break, we talk about diversity in general in the Potterverse. So see you on the other side of this break.
Hey, it's been another great week on IVM Podcast. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, please do spread the word about podcasting. You are our biggest ambassadors. If you tell somebody to listen to a podcast, that is the way that we're going to grow this space. This week on Simplified, the Simplified gang breaks down the funda of oil prices and why India pays so much for fuel. This week on Cyrus Says, Cyrus is joined by writer and film personality Raj Grover. He regales us with stories from partition and the heyday of Indian cinema of the 50s and 60s. On the Pragati podcast, Pawan and Hamsani discuss the government regulations that make the lives of restaurateurs difficult in Bangalore. They've got a really special guest. Manu Chandra is on that along with Madhu Menon. This week on IVM Likes, IVM staffers Janam, Abbas and Surbi sit down and talk about movies that didn't live up to the hype. Last week, the Rediscovery podcast went live with their 4th season. Listen to the first episode as Ambika and Hoshna talk about quitting their jobs for traveling and is it for everyone. On Shunya 1 this week, Sheila Ditya and I speak to Sairi Chahal. She is the founder of Sheroes, which is India's largest online community for women. This was another really, really interesting talk. And with that, let's get you on with your show.
All right, we're back. With me is Krupa Gohil, writer, playwright, and Potter nerd. So a lot of controversy has happened because of this casting. But what do you think is the way out of it? So, for example, even in the original series, we had the Patil sisters, right? And when I used to read the Potter books, it was obviously from a certain time, right? And back in, let's say, the 90s or the early 2000s, we were kind of used to seeing Asian characters or brown characters which were like either sidekicks or they were somewhere in the background or they were just mentioned to just give the idea that, yeah, there are all sorts of characters here, all sorts of ethnicities here, but they were never really like the center of attention. They weren't the protagonists. And over the last couple of years, we've seen that there's been this certain push, especially in fantasy and science fiction, to get people of color, to get people of all sexualities and all sexual orientations out there. So what's your overall assessment or opinion about that?
So in the very recent Fantastic Beasts and Crimes of
Grindelwald,
the trailer, first of all, that title just doesn't make sense.
Okay.
At all to me. Because, okay,
We didn't even touch upon the fact that Grindelwald is played by Johnny Depp, who has his own history of abuse and its own backlash. But why do you specifically not like the title?
It just doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
So you could have just said The Crimes of Grindelwald and we'd have been fine with that.
Right.
Why do you have to
call it Fantastic Beasts, Crimes of Grindelwald?
They just don't go together.
Okay.
So in the new trailer, I think there are just two people of color. There's Zoe Kravitz and Claudia Kim.
Right.
And Claudia Kim has a lot of she's very obviously in a circus. Right. There's a huge cage.
Right.
And she transforms herself into a snake. There's obviously someone who's making her do that.
Yeah.
I just think that also in The Cursed Child, I hate bringing it up again and
That's
again.
okay.
And
let's shit on The Cursed Child as much as we can.
I remember Ron having a child with one of the Patel sisters and
in one of the many alternate universes.
In one of the many annoying alternate universes where Albus and Scorpius are obviously in love.
Right.
And she's just wearing him down, annoying him and being the
nagging wife.
Which is a very
kind of stereotypical
which is a very annoying stereotype that Indian women are
subjected to. Right, so your point being that not just putting these characters in prominent roles is enough, but also break out of the stereotypical portrayal that we expect of them. If there is a if there's an Asian character, let's not make them be a martial arts expert or so on and so forth. I get your point, but I guess does it make you look at JK Rowling in a different fashion? Do you think that has that tarnished these stories when you read them again?
Absolutely. I remember looking forward to JK Rowling even before when I was on Twitter. I was like, oh, this is amazing. She knows everything. And there were Tumblr posts on how she has these secret messages and what was it? There was this one Tumblr post about how the first thing Snape says to Harry is actually a reference to
Lily's
Potter.
appearance, and how she used to smell.
Yeah, and there's so many so we've put Rowling at a pedestal.
That's true. Yeah,
and suddenly she just comes crashing down with, Depp is he's an actor and you will have to watch him if you like me. Or Harry Potter.
Yeah, that's true.
So she's making full use of the fact that a lot of us are helpless.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually a very good point, that when you make the creator of the world at a pedestal and because you have gained so much out of the world that she created, you want her also to take all the right decisions or expect that whatever decision she takes would be the quote-unquote morally right one to take. Whereas, let's face it, JK Rowling is involved in these multi-billion dollar film franchises. So obviously she will, in a way, toe the line that the studio also wants her to. Yeah, I guess that's kind of a bittersweet place to end this episode on. But I hope that as more creators write more stories, they give more prominent roles to people of color and bring more diversity and break stereotypes, because I think that's what we all read fantasy for, because we sort of want an escapism, but we also want a sort of hope to go forward. And I think in the article that you wrote for BuzzFeed, also you've mentioned that if you, off the top of your head, think of your favorite Potter characters, you'll think of the mostly white, straight characters.
Or like Dobby.
Or Dobby, or elves. Yeah, those are the only two options you have. Because the Kingsley Shacklebolt or Cho Chang were all characters which were put on the sides.
Yeah.
And which is okay. Like when I think of Kingsley Shacklebolt, I can only think of that little one line he says in out of the Phoenix.
He's got
He's got style.
Style?
Yeah, he's got style. I don't think the line was in the book, but
No,
it wasn't, right? Yeah, and there's this really cool scene where Dumbledore disappears and Kingsley Shacklebolt wipes himself off and he's like, say whatever you want, but Dumbledore's got style. That's also kind of a very stereotypical thing to do, to give the cool line to the black actor. All right.
One of the few people of color I really, really liked in the Harry Potter universe was Lee Jordan.
As the commentator, as the Quidditch commentator.
As also the person who ran the whole radio show when...
All right, I forgot about that.
The 7th book, there's this whole... they're all mocking Snape and like... Not mocking Snape.
Guys, Lee Jordan was a podcaster before podcasts were a thing.
Yeah.
In the wizarding world.
Yeah, he was awesome.
All right. Okay, so there you go. There you have if you search well enough and long enough, you will find characters who make a mark. So we hope that JK Rowling, if you're listening to this, please stop retconning things and just saying I always meant it that way. We will see the Fantastic Beasts movie when it comes.
We'll watch it, I think, because we want to see the build-up, because the whole war between Albus and Grindelwald happened in the 1940s, I think, and the movie set in the 1920s. So, like this whole build-up, hopeful sexual tension that won't end up in a heterosexual relationship. Maybe, I don't know.
Or maybe not, I don't know. All right, we'll keep an eye out for that and see what comes and what doesn't come out of the movies. So that was our episode for today. Krupa, where can one find you on social media?
I'm on Twitter as 4angry. I don't know how to pronounce my own username.
It's angry with a 4, guys. Instead of an A, it's the numerical 4.
And you add an E after the G.
Right. And you can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @AbbasMomin. If you have opinions about this controversy, you can write into us. You can reach out to us at IVM Podcasts. We are on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. That was our episode. We shall see you on another episode of IVM Daily very soon. Till then, bye-bye.
Look! Up in the internet! It's a meme! No! It's a cat video! No! It's the Geek Fruit Podcast!
That's right, we interrupt this riveting broadcast to tell you about our show, the Geek Fruit Podcast, where Tejas, Dinkar and I, Jishnu, talk about everything in pop culture, including DC, Marvel, Star Wars, Netflix, and everything in between.
You know how your friends hate it when you ramble about some nerdy crap and you just want somebody to listen to you? Well, sorry, there's nothing we can do about that, but come listen to us ramble and it'll almost be like the real thing. Kind of.
Listen to new episodes of the Geek Fruit Podcast every Monday and the Geek Fruit Bulletin every Thursday on iTunes, Google Podcasts, the IVM app, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy listening, you nerds.
Every week comes a show where 3 people come together to tell you about stuff they like. A movie, a TV show, a book, and other stuff. Tune in every Monday on the IVM Podcast app to IVM Likes. Batman approves this message. Thank you, Batman.